right, we are back at it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining in, tuning back in. It's been a few weeks since I've been on. I'm your host, by the way, Ricky Rains of the Bo Body Show. Been a few weeks, man. It's kind of just been a quiet time. There's not a whole lot going on. Hasn't been like pressing needs to get on here and just like start making up stories so that we can talk about something. But also just kind of started craving that, right? Like just sitting around a couple of buddies, just hanging out and talking shit, talking about football. But now that the Panthers season is about to start back up, and really it's the entire NFL season, but we'll talk about the Panthers because that's what we like to do here. But with the NFL season ramping back up, it's kind of time to start ramping up with your homies and saying, hey, look, man, let's start shooting the shit. Let's talk about this football team. What do we got going? What are we going to do this year? And so with no more further ado, I want to bring up my buddy that I'm going to talk football with. You guys know him. We got Alex Bryant back on the show. What's up, man? Oh, yeah, there's a good look for you.
What's up, dude?
Smart looking today. Yeah.
Sorry, I got my glasses.
Did you get some new glasses?
This is what I look like without glasses, guys.
Oh, wow. What a revelation, man. That's just completely changed everything.
Yeah, I probably also don't even work anymore. I don't even know. Like, I can see fine. I haven't got my new glasses in like three years.
That's okay. You don't need them. The ones that you had
No.
seemed like they worked fine if you were in a pinch, you know?
Yeah, I just needed people to like not see my actual face and get scared and go away. But now people kind of know what I look like anyway. So
ease them in, man. That's what you got to do, right? Oldest trick in the book. Well, look, man, like I was just saying, this is a fun time of year because we're getting into training camp, and training camp is when everything starts to get overblown, right? Where you get to start taking things too seriously that don't deserve to be taken seriously. I mean, it's like full-blown sports season. And it's one of my favorite times, right? Because you get to make big decisions on shit that doesn't matter, but you get to feel really good about it afterwards, right? Like, man, I really think it's going to happen, dude. Jaden Sheridan, it's going to happen. You know, like you just start really getting into it. But it is fun because you and I get to spend a little bit of time doing like what we used to do, where we just kind of go through the roster, talk about some of these players, see if we think that they've got a home here in Carolina, and just really keep it easy, man. What do you say? You want to do that?
Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait for easy. It sounds so good.
More than anything in the world, huh?
like ease up my complicated life. Also, like it's been 3 weeks. Did you get more stuff on your wall?
Oh man,
Or has it always been like that?
It's possible that I did. Honestly, I don't remember. I think that all this stuff has been there.
Yeah, I'm just always looking at your face, your beautiful face.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. The funny thing about that is my face is the largest thing on the camera, so it is kind of get drawn to it. You know what I mean? But no, I think it's all the same stuff, man. I've been meaning to. My wife has wanted to switch these rooms out, right, and turn this one into my kids' room. But I'm like, I got all my shit up on the wall. Like, I don't want to have to do that. Like those honey-do lists, man. They're always just like, hey, just do what I want, please. You know?
Yeah. Time is money. You know, he's fine right now. They're fine right now. We're fine. We're good. Everything's good.
I just think everything works the way it is. I just want to stay here. You know.
Also, speaking of big hands, I apologize to my daughter every day for giving her my big dome. She's 80 percentile in head, and she's like 50 everywhere else. So,
well, you know, man, I used to watch. I used to love the show Entourage on HBO about Vinny Chase and his boys. And they always had something in there that made me feel really good about myself because I've got a large head too. But Vinny Chase always said, hey, man, the bigger the head, the bigger the star. So I'm always like, hey, I'm just waiting for my time. Like, no, it makes no sense. It's a terrible thing to say. But for big-headed idiots like myself, it's a really comforting thing to hear, you know, because I was like, hey, I'm waiting for that phone call, man. Like, I've got it in me. I've got the goods. It's a giant.
At least you're like relaxed on the camera. Like for me, I'm just like leaning right in, so my head's like overwhelming. Like you're just like, oh, everything's cool, and so it doesn't look as big. But mine's like just in your.
If you want to be that relaxed, man, I just 10 milligrams is a good place to start, and then you can kind of move up from there. You know, depending on when you're ready to go to sleep and stuff like that. All right, anyway.
Bro, I can't.
That's a completely different podcast, and I would be glad to get into that for an hour as well. But let's start this off, man, because I think that this is going to take us a good while to get through this. We've got multiple position groups. The Panthers put this graphic out. Yeah, man, it was a nice graphic. Now, the thing that I saw everyone took gripe with, and I'm glad, I guess, that people are taking gripe with this, is why did you make Bryce Young the tallest person in this picture? Like, we all know, we're all Carolina Panthers fans. We know that he's not that tall, man. Like, you could have at least made him like the same height as some of these guys. I mean, look at, they got Robert Hunt over there, and he looks like he's like 5'8". Like, that's just crazy, man.
Well, the
It's a
problem is
nice
that
picture,
like
though.
it looks like you're on a hill, so in theory, like all the people would be behind him would be higher up because they're on the same hill. So the
Look at you.
weirdest part is like Derek Brown being back there, and he's standing straight up, and he's still smaller than
And he's
Bryce
still just
Young.
pissed off, right? Like Derek Brown's just always pissed off, but he's such a nice guy, man. Like everything I've ever heard about Derek Brown is how nice and approachable he is. But like every
Oh,
time
dude,
you're just like, that is just such a mean looking dude, man. But he's such a nice
he,
guy, apparently.
he might be my favorite player in the NFL. I love
Yeah,
him.
he's great, man. I can't
I've
wait
loved
to
him
see what
since
he does this
Auburn.
year. All right, so
Like
look,
I think he single handedly beat Alabama. When
yeah,
his
he was.
senior
I mean,
year.
he was a wrecking machine as an
Yeah.
interior defensive lineman. That's. I mean, it's a crazy thing, man. I remember watching him play in college, and there was conversation about him being in the Heisman conversation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
As an interior
monster.
defensive lineman, and that's a beastly thing, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at the offensive groups. We've got quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and offensive line that we will run through.
Let's go.
Couple little footnotes over next to the side of them. You got to take that leap, Bryce. The running backs, we got a crowded room. Wide receivers, ... or get off the pot time. I think that's a fair evaluation for a few of these guys. The tight ends, somebody please. The offensive line, wrote the check. It's time to cash it, right? Like we've got the investment in there. It's there. We got to see what that's going to actually amount to on Sundays, though. Defensive line, man, we beefed it up. We've got bigger body up there. The edge and outside linebacker room, I would tell them don't break a leg. I don't want anybody else getting hurt. I'm not wishing anyone to break anything. I don't care if it's poor show business etiquette. I don't give a shit. We play football. Don't break anything else. Everything is broken already. Interior linebackers, we've got the old meets new. Cornerbacks, we've got a lot of eggs in one basket. And that basket has a giant number 8 on the jersey of it. The safeties room, underrated, right? Like that might be the room that
I'm
I
with
love to
you,
have a
man.
conversation about, because I think that's
I'm
the
with
one
you.
that kind of gets lopped into this whole like, hey, this defense isn't great, right? We're taking a step back, which we are from an overall standpoint, 100%. I think that safety room got better. I think that Jordan Fuller and Xavier Woods are going to be a very formidable duo, man. And I'm excited to see Jordan Fuller out there, to be honest.
Yeah, when you I mean people talk, listen, right? You literally gave Von Bell away for free.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
And are
much you
still and are
believe in
still and are
Fuller.
still willing to pay him the $9 million to give
That's
him
what I'm
away.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like you
Yeah.
could have just kept him on your roster and nothing would have changed. Like
Correct.
you were just like, I believe in this guy so much that I want him to be. I want everyone to know that this is the guy. That
Right.
I mean, that's a wild thing to do. Just
Yeah,
want to throw that.
it's confidence in Fuller, and it's also a enough of a conversation that you could tell has been had that they were like, hey, look, you can go on your way, Von Bell. Nothing but the best for you. I hope everything works out, but this wasn't going to happen here, so that's just time to cut ties there. Which I appreciate that, man. Let's move on. Let's don't sit here and glorify, overspending and keeping people on the roster that aren't good. Get them off. If you're going to spend the money, man, at least get them somewhere else and bring in somebody that can play. Speaking of getting somebody off the roster and bringing in somebody that can play, we've got kicker is the first position that we have listed up there. That's a thick competition, if you know what I mean. The punter, Hecker forever, and then JJ Jansen, the Carolina GOAT. So we'll get into all those position groups and we'll talk about who we are kind of deciding between, but just a little introduction here, man, to familiarize everybody with the names in the room. So let's kick it off then. Quarterbacks. This is a pretty easy position group, in my opinion. And I would guess in your opinion and about anyone else's opinion of the Carolina Panthers, it's Bryce Young's room, right?
Yeah.
The conversation is, do they want to have a younger quarterback than Andy Dalton to kind of groom behind him as like almost like growing and learning together type of tandem duo? Because it seemed like the emphasis last year, right, was Andy Dalton was this terrific guru that could start or not terrific guru necessarily, but a terrific like role model for a young quarterback to come into. He's not a star player that's going to have like an attitude or a mentality about not getting to start. But he's qualified enough and adequate enough from a skills position that he can do spot starts and that your team wouldn't be in peril if he had to come in. But now I kind of think that the trajectory for that room has changed a little bit, and it has turned into a little bit more of, look, this is Bryce Young's room, but if he's not going to be the guy, do we want to be kind of like facilitating a younger player again. And I don't think that that's at all necessary. I still think that Andy Dalton's the exact kind of person you want backing up Bryce Young. I think you want someone that can step in, give you spot starts. You're not going to lose a game because of him. There's not going to be a quarterback controversy. I think that Bryce Young is the quarterback of the future, and that's pretty much how I would leave this room. What say you, Alex?
Yeah. I mean, what was the guy backing up Patrick Mahomes forever? He was like 90.
Probably Chase Daniel.
It was Matt somebody, I think. It doesn't matter.
Matt Castle, maybe.
No. Matt Castle.
Matt Castle was there for at some point. I'm sure he was everywhere.
Yeah, no. I was actually trying to look it up right there, but whatever. But he came in. Patrick Mahomes like rolled his ankle or something, and he came in. It was good because he's like I mean, think when Lamar was there, they got RG3. You get vets behind these guys that are young. It doesn't matter if they're first year, second year, third year. Fitzpatrick is behind Tua. Tyrod Taylor is behind Herbert. Brissett was behind Howell. Now he goes to May. Like you got to have that vet in that has it with, because you don't want like a young guy in, because then if Bryce gets hurt, then you got this young scared dude to be like,
right.
I don't know, that kind of thing. Like, you want to be able to still be competitive even if the guy goes down for half a game or like you can worry about it later on when if you lose him like the first 6 games, then why just lose him this or that.
Is there any reason in your mind that you would carry 3 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster right now?
No.
Not
the third quarterback's Jack Plummer. Like,
right, yeah. I don't know that I would carry. I don't know that I would carry a third, to be honest, at all in today's NFL. I think that that's a really difficult thing when you have the practice squad, and especially now. And we'll get into this a little bit, but you've got the new special teams kind of situation with the kickoff rules being different. That you're going to really want to allocate, I think, a couple of those end of the roster spots for people that can actually contribute in that way, and not just this backup reserve quarterback. And if I remember correctly, they also have a new rule about you can bring up one of your practice squad quarterbacks up on game day, so that you don't run into that not having somebody that doesn't count for your 53-man active roster. All right.
Yeah. The only team I can think of that would do 3 would be like the Broncos that have Wilson.
It's because they don't have one quarterback. So they
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When they're trying to Frankenstein somebody to play the position, they've got to have enough body parts to be able to build it.
Yeah, otherwise, I mean, if you lose your first 2 quarterbacks, you ain't going anywhere anyway. So
right. Okay, so we'll just move on because look, for the sake of this too, we're talking about the 53-man roster. This is an easy thing for me. Bryce Young is there. Andy Dalton's going to be there. That's where I would keep it.
Oh, wait. We got to talk about Bryce Young. He's small. He could get hurt.
Is he?
I'm nervous. I'm nervous. These small guys, they can't last in the NFL. That's what I heard.
Shit, he is small, isn't he? I completely forgot about that. It's been so long since we've done this that I didn't even remember that Bryce Young was 5'11", 5'12", somewhere in that range.
All those small guys that start in the NFL and they just get hurt all the time. Yeah. There's a big track record of that happening.
Hey, look, man, not everybody can be a giant like Caleb Williams, who's 5'11", 207 pounds. You know what I mean? Not everybody can be that big and strong. So, Chicago fans, count your blessings, man. You got the biggest chicken in the coop. I'm really happy for you, man. I hope that works out. So you know what, man, and this isn't even about Caleb. Like, I'm about to go off on a tangent here. It's not even about Caleb Williams, man. I hope nothing but the best for the kid. He's got crazy talent, like crazy arm talent. But the way that everyone has already put this kid up on a pedestal and like anointed him as the next greatest thing, the Nick Wrights of FS1 that's talking about he's, top 5 right now quarterbacks in the NFL. And it's like, dude, you're doing this kid no favors, first of all. Like, you're putting a giant pressure bullseye on his back, whether he acknowledges it or not, man, it's there. The rest of the league and everyone else in the media that hears you talking about it, the fans that hear you talking about it, you're going to make that a difficult, entry into the NFL for him. Unless he plays exactly like CJ Stroud, he's going to like kind of underwhelm, because that's what everyone has made him out to be, is that he should be CJ Stroud's level or better in his first year. I mean,
Nick Wright, didn't he anoint Trevor Lawrence 2 years ago? Sure, and Trevor Lawrence shit the bed last year.
And then, apparently, if you shit the bed, you get a lot of money, though, because he just got paid a shit ton of money. And I get it, though.
I get it, though. Just because you lose games doesn't mean you're back quarterback.
Correct. Wow, what a novel concept, right? How about that? Yeah. All right, we'll get into all that. Not going to do it right here. Not right now. We're having a fun day. Running backs. This is a really interesting room, to be honest, man. This is where it gets pretty muddy for me. Chuba Hubbard is going to be your running back one to start the year. And that's out of default for Jonathan Brooks coming back from his ACL injury. Because I don't think that it's up for any kind of debate. If I'm wrong, tell me. I don't think it's up for any kind of debate that you would take a running back in the second round of the draft and that he wouldn't be a plan of your focal point for your offense going forward. But when he's coming off of that torn ACL, I think that what they're looking at is this is a just turning 22-year-old kid. He has got a long future ahead of him. And we have Chuba Hubbard on the final year of his contract. And we accidentally signed Miles Sanders when nobody was looking. And now he's still on the team. And if we get rid of him, we're still going to pay another team $4 million to have him. So what we could do is just really burn the tread off these tires early on in this season, right? I'm talking like we'll let Bryce throw the ball 6 times a game. We will run it 48 times with Chuba and 26 with Miles. And that will be our 90 plays a game that we run, right? We'll just be running the damn football. I think that is likely, though, to be completely honest, that the attack is going to be heavy ground game. They've already said it, so you might as well start accepting it. I don't know that I'm seeing, 450 carries over the year or anything crazy like that, but I do see it being a very ground central game. I think they probably carry 4 running backs. So if I had to guess right now, right, and this is what we'll get to at the end, it will be my 53-man kind of initial projection. What's up, Kobe? We'll look at it. I've got Chuba Hubbard. I got Jonathan Brooks, man, and I'm not going to go Jonathan Brooks on the PUP list because I believe he's going to be healthy within the 6 weeks, and I don't think that they're going to want him sitting unnecessarily for 6 weeks because I do think that this team, while they stress that they're not competing or contending, I don't think that this team is giving up the way that some fans are kind of thinking that they're going to punt on this season. These guys are coming out to play, man. Correct. These dudes are coming out, they're going to play, man. And you know what? They should win games, dude. I don't want to get into this long conversation here.
Yeah, we don't need
Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick, and we traded up to get him. I was very excited about that, and I'm still very excited about it. But it's going to take some more convincing than you just telling me, hey, all we need him to do is throw 18 touchdowns and 7 interceptions for 3,000 yards, and we're getting there. Like, we're getting better. I don't think that, man. I think Bryce Young needs to come out and be a damn good quarterback. And I don't mean like, top 20 or top 15 in the league necessarily right now. Not top 10, maybe top 15. I think he should be right around there. I think that when you invest that much in somebody and then you invest in the offensive line and you give them adequate running backs and you give him decent talent on the outside, which I think he has now, I think he should be able to perform well. Yeah.
You just upgrade every position, maybe including head coach.
And that's why you can't fault him for last year's, because listen to what I just said. We had to upgrade. We had to give him everything. Like, we literally had to change everything. But looking at it now, I do think that you should expect better things from him. So I'm just not going to tie myself to the idea that Bryce is going to be a glorified, hand the ball off, we'll throw it 18 times a game. I still think they're going to throw it close to 26 to 32 times a game, somewhere in that range. But anyways, sorry, tangent. Running backs, Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks for me. Miles Sanders is going to be on the roster for me. I think that he's a candidate that he could be cut or traded. I just don't think you're going to get many people buying into that idea. And then I will go Raheem Blackshear for the special teams aspect of it. Although I'm not sure what to make of Canales' affinity for or against Raheem Blackshear. And I don't think that's like I have a strong preference from a Canales standpoint, right? That like, hey, I like this guy a lot or I don't like him. But I don't think that he has the ties to Raheem Blackshear that maybe the previous GM and the previous coaching staff that liked him and that kind of like gave him his shot. I don't think that exists anymore. So I do think that if Rashad Penny came in and was very healthy and looked really good and dynamic, I think that there's a chance that Rashad Penny could steal that spot because of familiarity with Dave Canales as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think. First of all, I think Rashad Penny is basically David Moore. I think he's there for the off season, and he'll sit on. He'll probably sit on the practice squad. Somebody might pick him up and then drop him again. We'll pick him back up, put him in the practice squad. I think that's kind of Rashad Penny now. I think he can come in and probably give you a game, maybe 2 games. I think that's why the Eagles held him all year. But there's a reason why he didn't get any playing time last year. It's just he I think
He's
that
not
he's like
healthy either
your
usually.
yeah. I think that's like your like break glass in case of emergency kind of
Yeah.
guy.
Yep.
And then you look at like what did think about what the Bucks did last year. They moved on Fournette. Like they moved the older backs like Canales' history. They like always move on from older backs.
Yeah.
They moved on
Yeah.
from Lynch. They moved on from Carson had to retire. They moved on from Penny. Like you get older, they move on from them. I think that the
Yep.
rest of it, I think it's going to play out a lot like Denver and Jets last year. I think you're right. I think he doesn't start on PUP or IR. I think that he'll be Jonathan Brooks will start the season, and I think that he'll get the same kind of workload that Williams and Brees Hall got last year. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
Chuba will be your P Ryan and whoever you want to say, Dalvin Cook or Michael Carter. And then
Yep.
Sanders could be like the Michael Carter of last year that got moved to the Cardinals. I don't think
Yeah.
Miles. I think that's worth holding because backs are so. By the end of the year, backs are so important because
Yeah.
everyone gets hurt,
Yeah.
everyone goes down. So I think Miles Sanders, I could see him getting moved like week 5 or 6 kind of thing.
And that's a good point. I like that because I do think also that as Jonathan Brooks gets healthier and starts to get his
Right.
sea legs underneath him, right, and starts feeling confident and comfortable in what he can do and his cuts and kind of like taking that next step in his rehab and his recovery. I think that once he gets there, they are going to say, "Hey, look, man, we want to give him more touches. We want him and Chuba to see what their dynamic is working together." Right? I don't know that Chuba's going to be in the long term plans, but I do think that it's worth finding out. I don't think that you automatically say we're definitely not going to sign him because maybe he doesn't garner a super, a starter's contract money. Maybe he gets a decent backup type of salary, but he may still be the kind of player that benefits your football team more so than a Miles Sanders where you can get rid of him next year. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that there's still a little bit more feeling out to do with that situation there. And I also do think that I don't know if you wanted to talk about Jaden Sheridan or Mike Boone at all. Sheridan, I know, has impressed some people in like rookie mini camps. I know that some people really liked. He's got some juice to him. He's got the kick return ability. I just think that you're going to have a hard time when you've got 4 pretty proven NFL backs. And Rashad Penny, I'll count on that. Raheem Blackshear, I would count as a guy who has been relatively dynamic in a special teams capacity. You're going to have a hard time beating all of those guys out. You know what I mean? I just think that that's an uphill battle to climb there for him. But I do think, man, that with this new kickoff rule, that some of these running backs, you might see teams carry 4 or 5 as opposed to 3.
I think the way running backs, like I told you before, when people got drafted, I think running backs are so important because they go down so fast. Like you think about like the Ravens, they had Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell, and they all went down. Like I think you just kind of have 4, but I think you're right. Sheridan might upset Blackshear. I just don't know if Blackshear. I just don't know him in the passing game that well because we never used him that well. And I know that that Canales likes those little gadgety guys like Tompkins last year.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know well enough, but I think that is the one person to look at. I think that's a good call by you.
Yeah, and I think that Jonathan Brooks again though it kind of clouds that picture up a little bit because as he gets healthy, I think he's the pass catcher out of the backfield too, right? Like I think he's got that 3 down workhorse type of capacity that they're going to want to use him for, right? Like when you draft a running back, man, you do know that his best years are his initial right away years. You know that. You know, like the likelihood of him being on the roster in 9 years is slim just because of the life like expectancy of an NFL running back. But if you could get 6 really good years or 5 really good years out of this dude, that's what you're trying to do. So you're going to give him all that he can handle if he's healthy.
And when people talk, listen, like they traded up for him. Like they targeted him. They needed it. He's going to play. He's going to play.
Yep, I agree. Wide receiver room has had a nice overhaul, a necessary overhaul. It wasn't just for style. You know what I mean? We didn't put just some nice granite countertops in the kitchen, but we left the flooring a shit mess and everyone's unbalanced when they're walking around the house. No. We did foundational work here this offseason, man. We rebuilt parts of the home that were starting to fall apart. And the wide receiver room, I think, is one of those key places that we really focused on putting our allocations of funds and intent. Deontay Johnson, we traded for Deontay Jackson. which that's a great trade, first of all, because you knew that you wanted Dante Jackson off the book. Deontay Johnson was in a position in Pittsburgh. They weren't all the way sold on him. There was a lot of, he's a locker room cancer. He's a diva. He's a problem. He's not happy when he's not getting the ball. And we know he's not going to get the ball because we've got Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph throwing the ball, and they don't like to give it to their own teammates. They like to give it to the other guys. So we already knew that they were kind of going for like this like meat in the middle chicken collision. Then you have Adam Thielen, who had a manufactured 1,000-yard receiving season again last year, but to no fault of his own. Like, you can't fault him for what he was asked to do. He was asked to do something and he did it. So he's still got the ability to catch the football. That's been proven. Xavier Legette, you move up in the first round and you draft this kid, right? And this is the guy that, size, speed. This is what you look for when you're talking about just, he's more talented and bigger and stronger and faster than other people. And we're just going to rely on that. We hadn't been doing that a whole ton with our drafts. So it is kind of nice to see them take that approach, I think. A lot of people don't think that he's ready to contribute early. I don't feel that way. I think that he's not ready to be I'm going to be your star-studded number one right out of the gate, and I'm going to be Jamar Chase, because I just don't think he's Jamar Chase. Breaking news. But I 100% think that he's good enough to come in and play the position right out of the gate in the NFL. And I think it will serve him very well to not have to be the number one priority like we tried to force Jonathan Mingo to be last year. Jonathan Mingo now comes into this receiver room, and he gets to be wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 5, and take a bunch of pressure off of him, right? And say, hey, what did you learn this offseason? Can we see it? Did you learn one route? Let's see that one. Did you learn 2? Let's see both of them. But like, you go your speed. You know what I mean? We're going to let you crawl this time. We're not going to ask you to go out there and sprint as a 6-month-old. We're going to let you kind of figure this game out. Then you have Amir Smith-Marset. And this second group right here, and I'm just kind of like trying to polish through so that we can have our discussion on it. Second group right here, Amir Smith-Marset, Terrace Marshall Jr., David Moore, Jalen Coker. I think those are the 4 that you're going to see kind of like duking it out. And I will put one more name. Dawood Davis, the kid out of the UFL. Or the USFL. I think that I was thinking to myself the other night, Alex, and you got to just tell me, man, if I'm like drinking too much or whatever it is. But I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, what's going to happen, right? Because everyone's having this conversation about Terrace Marshall Jr. is going to have the revived career with Dave Canales and Brad Idzik, right? And then Amir Smith-Marset is going to turn the corner, and he's going to do what he's capable of doing. And look, he hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities, but he's been in the league for a few years. And he just hasn't produced much, right? Jalen Coker is an undrafted free agent out of Holy Cross. A lot of people really like him. They've been trying to give him a couple of looks on special teams in OTAs and in mini camps. I think that that's important because I think that that plays into what we've been speaking about with that holding a little bit of extra value. But Dawood Davis is the player out of all of those guys that I just named that has had the most production and played the most meaningful football games in the past 2 years. And that's because he led his league in receiving, right? Or he was second in receiving in the USFL. Now, he played for the Dolphins, and he got hurt on a kick return. I believe it was in the preseason. They stopped the game, had to cart him off, everything like that. Obviously, he got all of his facilities were working in full order. No long, residual issues. He was able to pick football back up, and he put it down really well in the USFL. And so now we've signed him. He's a guy, I think it's like 6'2", about 195 pounds. Good career at Western Kentucky. The kid's got a little bit of game to him. So I was thinking to myself, is it really that crazy to think that in training camp, what if he comes out there and just works harder than everyone else, man? Could he sneak through and win one of these positions? What do you think about this receiver room, and how many do we carry?
So I got to go by when people talk. Listen, right? This is a new coaching staff. The only people that we know that this front office has decided to do anything with is Deontay Johnson. They traded for him. Mm-hmm. Xavier Legette, they drafted him. Mm-hmm. Amir Smith-Marset, they gave him a contract, and Jalen Coker, they gave him the highest undrafted contract, guaranteed contract, or I don't know the stipulation behind it, but the highest. Like, those are the 4 things. They brought in Davis, but those are the 4 guys that they've targeted for whatever reason. But this was going to be like my hot take, and you took it right away from me. I think what's going to happen is they're going to carry 5 receivers
Okay.
or 6 receivers, and I think it's going to be Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, Mingo, Marset, Coker, and Davis. I think Thielen gets traded before the season because I think that it's just I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps. He's 34. He, that's my call before the
But
season.
does it help? But does it help the young guys in that room?
No, it didn't help last year either. Didn't help
but last year, the only young guy in that room though was Jonathan Mingo, right?
And Terrace Marshall.
I mean, was Terrace Marshall in the room, or did they send him outside and
but that's what I'm saying. Like
early, you know.
But that's what I'm saying. And Thielen is basically kind of the possession guy that Johnson is. It's just a weird dynamic. I don't like Thielen for this roster in general. I think Deontay Johnson and Bryce Young you can see some Herbert. I mean, this is a big crazy thing I'm about to say. Some Herbert Keenan Allen kind of action with them. Like I think this is
they're timing based,
spot.
you know. Yeah,
I think this is a perfect spot that Deontay Johnson could have ever come. Because I think Bryce and Deontay Johnson are going to be excellent together. But I said it this weeks ago. I think Thielen's going to be gone, and I think Terrace Marshall's going to get cut. I think that you have so many people that's already seen him. He's got the talent. I don't think that he has that dog mentality that has been talked about, and you don't hear really anybody say anything about him. I think there's a real chance that he gets cut.
So I like
Davis though.
Yeah, I like very much the personal dynamic between Bryce Young and Terrace Marshall Jr. And I think that's what gives me my most pause about suggesting that he won't make the roster, is because I do think that sometimes it matters the people around your star players and like facilitating that positive environment and impact for them. But I will say this, that if there are guys that are just straight up outplaying Terrace Marshall Jr., it's not like having Giannis Antetokounmpo's brother on the end of that bench, right? It's not like having Bronny being the 15th man over there in La La Land. Like these aren't inconsequential roster positions. You're going to need somebody that can play. And Terrace, one of his biggest struggles that he's going to find too is that he's never done anything on special teams. So is he going to learn that his 3rd year or 4th year into the season? Is that where he's going to learn that? Or are they going to say, hey, Jalen Coker can do that for us now. He's learning it. Or David Davis is a guy that has done it before and he can come out there and do it. And neither one of these guys have any gripes about coming out there and doing it. You know what I mean? They weren't 2nd round picks. They don't feel like they've kind of been done dirty into the foray into their career. And I don't think that Terrace necessarily feels that way from everything that's been reported. He's super professional and stuff like that. But the one thing also about Terrace, these workout videos that I've seen with him, they don't look the same as the workout videos that I see for guys like Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, even Jonathan Mingo, when just talking about the Carolina Panthers guys working out. Those guys look pretty fast in their videos. I really am not trying to like trash talk TMJ at all, because I was a big proponent and had a lot of hope for TMJ. The videos that I'm seeing, he doesn't look very spry. And I saw someone comment that is most likely at the end of a workout, and that's possible, sure. You would think that maybe if you were going to take a video of the workout, you might be smart enough to take that early on when you didn't look like, you know, you had all the oil at the bottom of your feet that you were kind of dragging. I just think Jalen Coker is a guy that has a lot of noise around him. He's an undrafted free agent, and I don't think that that's always very likely that they find places to stick, especially when they're in competition with proven contributors. I don't think that he's up against proven contributors. I think that there's 3 people that are surely worth roster spots in the wide receiver room, and that's Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, and Xavier Legette. I say Thielen because I think that he still has an NFL skill set.
Correct. Yeah, I believe so.
And I don't disagree with you, though, that like it wouldn't be a terrible thing, man. If they moved on from him, it wouldn't be a terrible thing. I don't see it happening before the season, so I've got him making my initial 53. But I could see very much like a similar Miles Sanders type of situation where a week 5, week 6, maybe, you know, before the trade deadline, they're sitting there saying, hey, if a team has an injury to a receiver or something like that, could Thielen be somebody that comes in and helps the team not fall off if they're competing, right? But I do think that I have Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Jonathan Mingo, Amir Smith-Marset, and Jalen Coker as my 6 that I have them carrying. So I also have them cutting Terrace Marshall Jr. And David Davis, I think will be a practice squad guy if another team does not go for him. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens, man, on the guys that we cut this year. I want to see if anybody gets picked up, because last year they didn't want anybody that we cut. I think that Keith Taylor ended up on the Chiefs practice squad. He didn't even get signed to an active. Yep. I don't think we had anyone go to an active roster. I'm pretty sure it was all practice squad. So I am interested to see what happens there. Tight ends. There's a lot of people, man, that are excited about Jatavian Sanders. And I want to be excited about Jatavian Sanders. Like, I really, really badly want to be excited about him. So please don't let this come off negatively. He was a 4th-round pick. And rookie tight ends don't typically come in and contribute. Even the 1st-round picks, the 2nd-round picks, the 3rd-round picks. The 4th-round picks are even less likely to. I'm trying to hold off on any kind of judgment on him, because if he comes out and he only puts up 130 yards receiving, I don't want to call him Ian Thomas out of my side of my mouth. You know what I mean? Speaking of Ian Thomas, I got him making the roster. Tommy Tremble's going to be tight end 1. I think Ian Thomas has some value in that kickoff scheme. I think that he's the kind of player that's going to be valuable on some pull mechanics and some sweep type of deals, because I think he is a adequate enough blocker in the run game and a lead blocker, a move blocker, that he's going to be better than having, you know what I mean, a middle linebacker or a small interior offensive lineman, you know, a JD Dorenzo or somebody out there trying to pull like that. So I do think that he'll find a home there. So Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, and Jatavian Sanders. I got him taking 4. My 4th guy is surprising is Jordan Matthews. I think that he's a special teams guy. I don't know, man. I just feel like they're going to do some weird shit. They're just going to do something strange. And so why not, right? Why not Jordan Matthews? If he's sitting there busting his tail and if he shows value in special teams, why not keep him, right? He already said he doesn't need him to block. So I'm not as concerned about Jordan Matthews being 6'3", 225. That may be exactly what he wants, you know?
Yeah. No, just go look at every single Seahawks team that was available. I mean, you had Will Dissly. They went and got Jimmy Graham. They had
Luke Wilson,
Kobe Parkins. Wilson. They always have a ton of tight ends because they like to do a lot of like fun stuff with them. I agree with you. People are like love him, and I think I like him like long term. I don't think he does anything this year. They didn't like move up to get him. He's just there, and they got him in the first top of the 4th round. I think they really like Trimble. I think Trimble is like really a Dan Morgan kind of guy. And Ian Thomas, like, as much as people like hate on him because he didn't put up numbers or anything. I mean, every single coaching staff gives him a new contract. I mean, he does something correct. I think he's just a good pro and he works hard. And so I think you're right. I think those 3, and I agree with you. Whether it's Jordan Matthews or Sullivan, or they get somebody else that gets cut, I think they carry forward. I think that he likes. I think he's a very tight end. He wants to run a lot of tight ends through his system. So I can see
they ran 12 personnel, I think 25% of the time last season in Tampa Bay, and that was with the tight ends that they had on that roster, right? Yeah. So, and I'm not saying that like we're that much better, but like you said, I do think that Tommy Tremble has a lot of internal support inside that building. Yeah. I think that this is the year that he's got to put it together, though. I think that if he doesn't put it together this year and he doesn't take that step to say, I'm a clear tight end 1 in the NFL, and I don't mean like an elite, you know, like top tier. He doesn't have to be Travis Kelce. But if you don't prove that you could be tight end 1, I don't think you get another shot, because I think that now you're running into the same situation as an Ian Thomas almost, where it's like maybe you're not trash, but you also just can't put anything together. And I know that you've had like a stacked deck against you, like different coaches, different personnel turnover, all those things. I get it, but you haven't done anything individually either. So at some point, we can't keep on giving guys the 4 or 5 year windows to make up for the incompetency of the franchise. You know what I mean? Like at some point, we've got to have players that are just really good players and that can persevere through shitty personnel decisions and shitty coaching decisions, because those things happen and we just can't. I don't want to run into that guilt trip thing where we just feel bad for ourselves all the time, right? Like, oh, woe is us. We can't figure this out. Nah, I do want to figure this out. And I think it starts by just holding people accountable and saying, if you're not good enough to do this job, we're going to find somebody that thinks that they are, that'll come in and at least put the effort in to being that, right?
Yeah.
Tommy Tremble's a hard worker, man. I think he's going to be fine. And he'll get more opportunities than he's ever gotten. Ian Thomas,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him, because I do think the special teams is where he gets most of his play. Yeah. But I think they like him. And hey, prove me wrong, dude. Just prove me wrong. But he just hasn't looked quick and nimble. And that has affected his blocking. And that was his calling card. So if his blocking is not good, then his hands better take a massive step forward this season, Yeah.
What was Wilson, what was this guy's first name on the Seahawks?
Luke Wilson.
Luke Wilson. Yeah. Luke? I think you're right. That's like perfect comp to Temple. Like I think that's who he should be in this offense. Like he's not going to be a target hog, but he just makes 1 or 2, 3 big plays a game like that. He just disappears and gets in the open space and he just invites contact. I think that's a very, very good comp to Tommy Tremble.
Yeah, and he's a bit bigger. Luke was a bit longer and taller. I think he was like 6'5". So he's a bit of a bigger guy and not as prolific of a blocker. But he wasn't. I think what you're alluding to and what I agree with you on is that it's the not a high volume pass catcher. He's not a focal point of the offense, but he's capable that when you want to run a play for him, he can do it.
Right.
But as a secondary option, he's also a really good yards after catch guy. That if you get the ball in his hands, man, he can turn it into something,
Yeah, man. I think I just got all these images in my head about Russ, they've stopped the Seahawks, 2 straight downs, and all of a sudden, they're backed up.
Luke Wilson,
third and 15, and Luke Wilson comes out of nowhere. And
I agree. No, you're right. Yeah, you're right, man. I could see that 100%. Offensive line. This is the other part of the team that they've done major reconstructive surgery to, right? We know they overhauled the wide receiver room. And the offensive line is what got the most work done to it. The guy on the far left there, if you're looking at the show, if you're watching the program with us, that's Robert Hunt. That is a large individual that played very well in Miami, remained fairly healthy in Miami, is familiar with the zone gap scheme, with the quick read pass offense. So there's a lot to like about his placement into this offensive scheme. And he's also a terrific run blocker. Then you look at Damian Lewis as the other offensive lineman that we brought in, another starter from the Seattle Seahawks. So familiarity with Canales and Idzik and that system. Ike Ekwonu, this is a total shit or get off the pot year for him. You want to talk about make it or break it for Bryce Young? This is make or break for Ike. And I think that it's make or break in the first 6 games of the season for Ike. I think that if he comes out and he plays poorly, there's another person that we brought in with intention, and that's Yosh Neiman, the backup swing tackle from the Green Bay Packers, that he has experience on the left and the right side. And I don't think that Ike has a long leash at all before Yosh gets his chance to show that he is a better pass protector than Ike Ekwonu is. I don't think that it's up for debate if Ike is a good run blocker. He is. But the conversation about maybe just kick him inside, that's gone now. Because you got Damian Lewis and you got Robert Hunt. Ike's fighting for his job, I think. Right now, I think it's on the line, and I think he's got to come out and he's got to prove it. The depth overall of this room, I feel so much better about. Like when you say you take Brady Christensen and take him from your starting left guard to now he is your starting swing player where he can just be left tackle, right guard. He's even taking snaps at center to familiarize himself with the position. That makes me feel way better because I don't think Brady Christensen is trash. I just think that he's a really high quality, backup level NFL player. I think that he can give you some spot starts. I don't know that I necessarily thought he was your franchise player, right, on the offensive line. I do think that I still have my questions about Austin Corbett, but every bit of reporting has been how sharp and how quick and how nimble this guy has looked. And those were my concerns, is coming off of the 2 leg injuries. What does he look like getting out and blocking in space? That was my entire concern, right? From a size standpoint, he's built like a center, 6'3", 313, squatty kind of body build. He's smart enough to play the position. He just never has done it. So I worry about his athleticism coming off those leg injuries. But if he works out, man, that offensive line should be much better. When we talk about the 53, I think that Chandler Zavala is going to be the name that is left off this roster. And I think that's going to surprise a lot of NC State fans, but I don't think that it'll surprise anybody that watched him play objectively last season. I don't want to pile on to the kid. I know that he had the injury and all that stuff in Detroit. He did not play well, man. When he was out on that football field, he played very bad. In fact, it is the statistical worst season any interior offensive lineman has ever had by PFF's ratings. He had a 7.0 pass block grade. 7, man. Like I'm talking about like you could 7. Alex, I don't know what to say. 7-minute abs, not 8-minute abs, not 6-minute abs, 7-minute abs. That's what he got as his grade.
This is such a good reference.
You
got to say the reference now. Something about Mary.
Yeah, of course it's theirs. Yeah.
People didn't know the name of the reference, but
yeah. I mean, look, that's
kind of my thing. Funny.
I'm an obscure reference person that'll just say it and then walk away from it. Like I won't even tell you what it is. You know, I'll just say something, and if I enjoy it, I laugh at it and I move on.
Well, I enjoyed it too.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's
and like 3% of the audience will enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why we're friends. Because once I started saying that, I knew I saw you laughing, and I was like, "See, bailed me out. Got it." But I think Chandler Zavala, though, man, I think that he's an NC State kid. There was a lot of hopes and dreams about him pairing up with Icky and making it work. I think he's going to have an uphill battle because you've got Cade Mays, Brady Christensen that both have a lot more versatility than Chandler Zavala does.
Yeah.
Nash Jensen, JD Dorenzo, I think fall in kind of that similar state of like both interior spots. Ricky Lee, I think, is the guy that could do tackle and guard because he's got a little bit of an in-between body frame as well. They brought in Jeremiah Crawford as a undrafted kid out of Tennessee, I believe. Christian Duffy is an undrafted kid. But Andrew Rame is the only guy with any kind of center experience. He's an undrafted free agent out of Oklahoma. But when you look at it, man, you're not going to carry 14 of these guys. So, like, you have to make some decisions. I've got them taking Icky, Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Taylor Moton, Yosh, Ricky Lee, Brady Christensen, Cade Mays, Nash Jensen, and JD Dorenzo. And that's it. I've got...
Yeah, I was stopping at 10. So I was with you until Dorenzo.
Did I go 11? I might not have Dorenzo then. That might have been my mistake.
Yeah, you have the original 5, and you have Yosh, you said Ricky Lee, Mays, Christensen, and Jensen. There's 5 more.
I think I might have had Dorenzo on there too. I'll have to look at the end.
I think if you see they're carrying 11 linemen, or they're carrying 4 tight ends.
Tight ends. Yeah. That's fair. Defensive line. Everyone really likes the A'Shawn Robinson signing. What are you saying? About you don't like the group?
Just the defensive line, just the state of it.
Yeah, it's not great. The good part is 1/3 of it is Derek Brown, who really counts as like 2 people. So even if the other 2 guys are ass, Derek Brown is a fantastic football player, and he's going to make up for a lot of shortcomings by other people. But we saw last year what happens if everyone around him is ass. And it's that he is still going to have a very productive individual year, and he's still going to play with the high motor that he plays with. He's still going to command double teams. But his production is going to stop at simply run defense. And I think that he's a more capable player than that. But I think that it's being taken away from him because of the fact that there's nobody else helping him out. There's nobody else to account for. A lot of people really like the A'Shawn Robinson signing. The only thing that I'll say about A'Shawn Robinson, man, is that he's never been a pass rushing big guy. Like he just never has. And I know that's not what you would expect from him with his frame and build and playing the 3 technique and all those things. I get that. But I mean, even when he played in LA with Evero, he had some decent years as far as a run stopper, but he never had any kind of production, man, when it comes to pressures or sacks. He didn't have a lot of production. And what I wanted really badly was to see if they weren't going to shore up that edge room, which we'll get to. I wanted to see them bring in somebody that could cause a little havoc on the front because Shai Tuttle can't do that either. And Shai Tuttle was very disappointing for me last season. I still don't think
Man,
that he's
I
a
mean,
natural fit.
yeah, I think the Henry Anderson. So I've been Henry Anderson
No,
being down
good.
the whole year. I think that killed the idea, the dynamic that line. I think
Mm.
everybody was kind of like floundering. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
but so then what do you think then? Like Ashawn Robinson essentially would come in and fill that Henry Anderson type of
Correct.
position, but completely different players, right? So like,
Mm.
so what is your outlook for this defensive line? How many do you think we carry? And like, is there anyone on this? Is there anyone on this? Because this is what I was having a problem with. I have them keeping Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, Shy Tuttle, Nick Thurman, and Jaden Crumedy. That's it.
Yeah, I kind of
And,
want to
and
say I kind of want to say they only keep Brown, Robinson, and Tuttle, and they just pick off scraps.
but I think
Honestly,
they've
that's
got
kind
to.
of how I
You got
feel.
to have some depth, though, man. Like you've
That's what I'm
got to
saying. I
have
think they get
more
the
depth than
scraps from
that.
the other teams and free agency.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the guys I really like. I mean, I like those three. Well, I think Tuttle's gonna be a lot better this year. I think that.
When they drafted Crumedy, the kid out of Mississippi State, so I just feel like they're going to want to give him. They're going to want to see him make the roster. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that he's going to make it, but they will want to see him make that roster. 6th-round pick, yeah.
Yeah, 6th-round picks don't usually make the roster anyways. But
they do in Carolina because we don't have anything. Like
and
that's the whole. That's the point, man.
That's the thing that we got to get out of our heads. That every
Right.
draft pick makes the roster. Like that was a big.
Right.
That was like a big rule thing that somehow stuck and became like the norm. It's like no, yeah. Usually you keep like 3 or 4 of your draft
Yeah.
picks, and
Yeah.
you
I
just
do
keep
like. I like
everybody.
the kid. I like the nose tackle out of Oregon, Popo Amave. I like him, and I think that if he doesn't land with us, I think that he'll find his way on a practice squad somewhere. He just dealt with some injuries at Oregon, but when he was healthy, man, he was a force, and he was a wrecker in the middle of that defense. And I still think that I know that everyone says Evero doesn't use a true nose tackle, and that we don't play out of the base all that often, and that's a fact. We don't play out of the 3-4 base all that often, but when we do, we don't have a stuffer in the center to clog up 2 blockers and to make life more difficult for those interior offensive linemen getting to that second level of our defense. And if you want Josie Jewell and Shaq Thompson to find success as the run defenders, right, then you're gonna need somebody to take some of that pressure off of that second line of defense. And I think that that's what you do with the nose tackle. And I think that would have helped Derek Brown a good deal. So I don't know, man. I think that if there was one outside pick there for me, it would be Popo Amave out of Oregon. I don't foresee that happening, though. I think it's Nick Thurman and Jaden Crumedy, and I think they take 5 from the defensive front.
I apologize for any alarms that were going off. I live in New York City, and
Oh, good, man. That's the fun part about the city that never sleeps, you know.
Yeah, but I do believe somebody's going to stand out. Like there's too many people there for someone not to stand out. So hopefully that happens. But I think that they're in general. I think there's going to be a lot of action after the 53 is announced.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Now this room is the one that I probably feel the worst about.
Why?
Oh yeah. Well, so here's my thing, man. Do you see that picture right there of Jadeveon Clowney, right? That was a picture from the team. He actually took that picture with J.C. Horn. It was the 2 South Carolina Gamecock players side by side. But I just wanted Jadeveon to feel more comfortable, and I think he's going to have to get used to being by himself. So I went ahead and I got J.C. Horn out of that picture so that he was all alone in an island doing all the work on himself, because that's what he's going to have to get comfortable with here in Carolina. I will say a very interesting thing happened today at the pressers for training camp. You know, the veterans reported today, and we had a little bit of conversation with the coaches and stuff. And Dan Morgan brought up the fact that they just drafted DJ Johnson last year in the 3rd round. Came out and said that. Now, the reason I found that interesting, Alex, and tell me if I'm reading too much into this, but I have a feeling you'll tell me I'm not, because you're one of those if people talk, listen proponents. I thought that Dan had done a pretty nice job of not reminding anyone that he had been in the front office last season up until that point. Like, I thought that, like, everyone knows that we support Bryce Young, right? That's our franchise quarterback. We all know that. But you haven't heard much about Jonathan Mingo. You haven't heard much about the trade up for DJ Johnson. You haven't heard much about Chandler Zavala. You haven't heard anything about Jamie Robinson, right? And so it's like, you got all these players right here that you drafted with the intention of them being the future last year. And now this season, all you've talked about is, yeah, look, we're drafting with an eye on the future, right? Like we're just trying to build our young core. But it's like you've forgotten about those other guys and you're trying to distance yourself because what you had was a built-in excuse. You were able to say, yeah, look, man, Scott kind of went rogue on some of those and decided last minute that those are his guys, and he was a GM. He had the ability to do that. But when Dan comes out and says, we just drafted this kid in the 3rd round last year. We got high expectations for him. We hope he comes out and performs. Boom. Put that clamp right back on him, right? Like he's tied to him now. Maybe it's not a bad thing. I think that I can find the tiny bit more optimism than most fans seem to be able to when it comes to DJ Johnson. And the reason for that is because I think he's going to get a boatload of opportunity. I think he's going to play a lot. And I don't anticipate DJ Wanham starting the season healthy. I think he's going to be on the PUP list. I think Amari Barno is going to be on the PUP list, if not cut. I think Iku Leota, he is not on the physically unable to perform list, despite the calf strain they talked about. So I think he's going to get some good run. And Dan Morgan also mentioned him today. And Clavon Chason, look, man, until I see it, I'm not believing any of that. I would rather see Iku Leota get more opportunity in Cam Gill than Clavon Chason, to be completely honest. DJ Johnson, I think, still has the ability to do it. But this is the room. I think you're going to see a whole lot of resources, whether it's a waiver wire, whether it's trying to trade, whether it's, free agents that are still out there. I think this is where they're going to put a lot of their eggs or, a lot of the money into this eggs of the basket. What do you think about this edge room?
Yeah, I mean, I'm agree with you, Chase. I think they're just. It feels like from the start of last year to going into this year, they're just getting like a lot of high upset guys, which I personally love. You play to win the game. Like I don't want to be 6-win team. I don't want to be 7-win team. I'm gonna get guys out of nowhere. They're like people ask, how in the world do they get those guys? Like that guy? Like how did this happen?
Right.
Kind of thing. I want to have that person on our team because we never really get that except for like someone like Luvu that just decided to leave us. But I mean, I think Haynes is still in the market, right? That could be a guy we can bring in. Yep. I think there's still guys we can bring in, but like I don't see Chase Hahn making the team. Honestly, I just don't.
I'm just so worried about the idea of bringing in Marquise Haynes, man. And this is as somebody again that I spoke highly about Marquise Haynes last year, and then was out pretty much with the back injury all season. Has dealt with that back injury multiple seasons, and just hasn't. I don't know, man. That seems like one of those treading water when you don't need to tread water moves again. I just feel like if you're going to let this all just be shit and garbage and trying to see what you have in DJ Johnson and these young guys or whatever, I think you just got to live with that. Live in that muck for a little bit and let Iku Leota and DJ Johnson get as many touches as their heart can take. Like, just let them do it. Find out if you have anything in the two of them, right? Like, find out if you have anything. And if you want to play Amari Barno when he's healthy, if you want to keep him on the roster, go for it. DJ Wanham might benefit if you find out what you have at DJ Johnson and Iku Leota. And if you got any kind of juice from one of those players that could be a pass rusher, Wanham would benefit as that cleanup artist. But you got to know who he's cleaning up after because Clowney is the only one that has any kind of production in the entire damn room. I don't know,
so
man.
There's actually three things. DJ Johnson. I really have to see it, man. We get out in here and talked. When I saw him live, I was like, this dude sucks. Like this dude is off. Like even seeing him run, like it's so hard for me to even think about him making that next step. And I'm saying he can because he's super athletic and he has like a motor. But man, that's a huge jump.
I think that's a really interesting thing to watch for camp too, though, and not to cut you off because I want to get back to you in a second, but that's a really interesting thing to tie it into camp, though, because I think you will be able to notice how he looks just from an athleticism standpoint compared to these other guys, right? Especially like you talk about Trevin Wallace. We'll get to him, the rookie out of Kentucky. That's an uber athletic guy, and you were just saying DJ Johnson is that athletic dude. Like we know he tested really well, but he never looked it on the field, right? He looked kind of slow and plodding, and like he wasn't super fluid. But if he looks more agile and more explosive in training camp, that's going to make me feel a lot better about the prospect of him untapping something right within the season. But I got to see like what you just talked about. I think is crucial. I got to see the actual untapped athleticism though that his testing numbers showed.
Yeah. And this is the good thing to talk about, like Mingo. Like Mingo had problems, right? But
Mm-hmm.
man, that dude is talented. Like I told
Yeah.
you when I saw him on the field, like I saw like him and Chuba were the two guys that are like, wow, those guys are
Yeah.
different. Like those guys are look different than everybody else. But going back, Barno, I've always been kind of a fan of Barno because he's he has it. He just man, it's almost like he's like 75% of the way there. And if he gets like 90, like he could be a really productive player. So I'm a fan of his. It sucks that he's hurt.
Do you think that people
And
just like Amari Barno because of his size and his speed that he ran at the 40? Because I see what you're saying about like he's got like 75% and like he just can't put it all together. But is that just the perception of what we think of him because he's 6'5", 245 pounds, and ran a 4.39 40 or whatever?
yeah, it's like he made these big plays at the end of some game last year. I think he had like 2 sacks or 1.5
Yeah,
sacks,
yeah,
and you just saw like a mini Burns in him. I don't know if he's ever going to because it's already been what 3 years. I don't know
yeah,
if he's going to put it together, but you
yeah.
see it, and that's why I was going back to DJ Johnson. Like I don't see it at
Right,
all
right.
with him. And I don't even remember what my third point was because we stopped a couple times. But anyway, I oh yeah, three. My third point is so when people talk, listen, right? We see like us looking at this right now, we see a problem. You know what they didn't do in the draft is address that problem. So
Yeah,
they don't see it. So it makes me think that there's either a plan there or that they're scheming around it. I don't know the answer to that, but because they didn't address that, it makes me think that there's something. It just gives me a little bit of hope in general for that position.
yeah. I get that, and I don't know if some of they didn't make a move. I don't know if some of that is because they couldn't, right? Like they didn't have the resources to draft all the players that they needed to draft this year, but they also didn't have the resources to sign all the free agents. That's the way that they always try to word and like balance these things out, right? It's like, hey, we can't do everything at one time. And I get it. That's fair. But I'm with you that I think that more or less what I got from it was that they wanted to see what they had in these guys that they did bring in. I think that
Mhm.
they do want to see what DJ Johnson could do. I think that Evero did like him. I think there's a chance that Dan Morgan liked him, and that there is a pride aspect and look. If Dan Morgan is a really renowned personnel guy, and he did co-sign DJ Johnson, which we don't know that, and I'm not trying to infer that, but if he did, I want to see what this kid has. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to just go off of what I'm saying and seeing after one, rookie year and saying, oh no, give up on him. If Dan Morgan likes this kid and Ejiro Evero like this kid, and they have seen more and they see enough that they didn't worry about drafting somebody maybe in the third round over Trevin Wallace, or maybe even in the second round when there was pass rushers available there, right? They went other ways. So I think you make a good point there. I'm going to go with them taking Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Johnson, Iku Leota, and Cam Gill are going to be my active guys on the
Ooh, I like
53.
that.
Now, I'll tell you, though, I've got Amari Barno and DJ Wanham starting on the pup. I don't know if
Yeah.
they would keep both players and keep them on the pup, or if maybe they let Amari go. I could see them cutting ties with Amari Barno possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
But why I think I like them only carrying 4 out of this group is because I think you see the waiver wire go crazy. And I think that that's where you're going to see some of these other moves. Like if they keep JD Dorenzo, right, and they go 11 at offensive line, maybe he's the guy that goes off, right? Maybe that's an easy trade off. He goes to the practice squad because you're not worried about somebody poaching him necessarily. So I think that's where I would fall with that.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think that there's something going to happen. Like, I just don't think that they're just ignoring it.
No.
And I think you're right. I think that DJ Johnson has the want, so he could have just gone really hard this offseason and worked like his ass off, and he's going to be great.
Maybe.
But man, it was egregious last year what I saw.
I agree, man. I agree. And I will say, though, that there was one clip, dude, and I can't remember what clip it was. I think it was the day that he got hurt in OTAs, because he messed up his knee in OTAs. And they're saying that it's not, important or nothing serious at all.
Yeah.
But it was that day that I saw him doing drills. And I swear to you, man, I thought to myself, I was like, man, he looks quick. Like, he looks quicker than what I saw him look like at all last season. So maybe he cut a little bit of weight. Maybe he's got a little bit of better, diet and regiment and workout regiment. I mean, this is a kid that was playing tight end at Oregon too, right? And so like now he's fully emerged into this outside linebacker edge life as an NFL player. I get it, dude, that he's an older guy, so we didn't love the fact that the older guy has a long learning curve. That's not a smart way to do it. But if he comes in now at 26 years old and he balls out, hey, I'm cool having a 26-year-old that can be a good ball player now. Like that works out for me, man. All right, let's talk about the off-ball linebackers. We brought in Josie Jewell. Captain Shaq Thompson is healthy. That's a great get for the Panthers. I think it can't go understated how valuable his leadership is and his voice is to this football team.
Absolutely.
And I think that we missed it last year. I think Frankie was the heartbeat last year, but Frankie's a different kind of heartbeat than Shaq Thompson is, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think that like it's almost like what you think about with when Luke and Thomas Davis are playing together, right? Luke is like the Shaq Thompson. He's like he's the heartbeat. He's the brain. He's the backbone. He's where everything is. And then Thomas Davis was like the Frankie Louvu for me, where he was the man. He's going to make an exciting play happen. He's going to make a wow play happen, and it's just going to blow your socks off and get everybody going. That's the way that I saw kind of both of those guys. I like the Josie Jewell edition. I'm skeptical if he's the answer necessarily opposite of Shaq, but I like the effort. I like the idea of Josie Jewell to shore up that run defense once again. And then I think when you talk about what you drafted in Trevin Wallace, the 3rd round kid out of Kentucky, uber athletic, chance to make big plays on special teams, I think pretty much right away, whether that's as a gunner or on return. I think that this is a group that I think can carry 5, maybe even 6, depending on what they want to do, because of the special teams aspect and because of and because of the lack of depth at the outside linebacker position. I know a lot of people really like Michael Barrett, 7th round pick out of Michigan. He's a good ball player. He was important and he was important for them. But is he going to make the team over Claudin Cherlis and Chandler Wooten, who I think are 2 pretty good special teams guys? Yeah. And then Tay Davis is a guy that I think that they brought in for a reason as well, and that's probably special teams. Maybe Michael Barrett makes it. Yeah, I don't think that that's like out of the question. But I think that he's got a battle though, man, because I just think that Chandler Wooten was a good ball player last year, and I was shocked that he didn't make the 53. And then Claudin Cherlis, this is a guy that they got him off waivers last year, right? From the Jets, if I remember correctly. I think that they really like his athleticism. I think there's something there that piqued their interest, and he's stayed with them.
With you.
Like, he's hung on. So, I don't know, man. I don't think it's as much of a shoe-in for Michael Barrett. How many do you think they take out of this?
I mean, I like literally the first 5 what you have. Barrett, I mean, I think Barrett's kind of in the same realm as the David Moore, and in a different way. Rashad Penny, I think he's the guy that's the adult in the room that keeps everybody together. And I think he's on the practice squad. I just don't think he's talented enough to make the team. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. A linebacker is so hard to gauge. But I think you're right about Cherlis and Wooten.
It's a tough one, man.
Yeah, but then your first 3, and I think you're right about Jewell. I think Jewell is like a placeholder. I think he knows the Evero system, and I think he's a placeholder.
And I think that he's a sure tackler and stuff like that, and that's something that I think that they wanted to emphasize this year was to shore up some of the missed tackles, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But all of these defensive pieces are really going to have to like hit their maximums. You know what I mean? Like they're really going to have to hit the top of their performance peaks to become a good defense. Otherwise, I think we're in for a very underwhelming season on the defensive side.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like, I mean, Evero is a system versus player kind of. It's like he's never drafts high defensive players in the past 10 years. He hasn't, and he makes it work. But it might be to a like he might have done that to an obnoxious degree where he's like he thinks that his system is too good to defense to fail. So it's so hard to tell with him last year too, because
it's hard to tell.
We had like 7 guys go down in the defense last year. It's insane.
And he held it together fine. And so that's the thing, is that he may very well do that same thing here this year, and he may be even better because he's got more insight into what he was missing from the team last year and what he needed to kind of shore that up. So I want to give him that benefit of the doubt. But I do agree with what you're saying. The notion of no matter how good of a coach somebody is, dude, we need to get off of the high horse of we don't need good players because we've got a good coach. No.
Correct.
Get a good coach and then have him coach good players. Like that's what a good football team is. A good football team is good coaches coaching good players and putting out a good football team. You can't do that in the NFL. You cannot take, I don't give a shit, man. You take Andy Reid and Mike McDonald, have them be your offensive and defensive coaches. If you give them, Zach Wilson as the quarterback and you give them the Panthers 2023 offensive line, and I'm talking like the 7th and 8th guards in, not the starting guards. You give them those tools to work with, or you give them the secondary, like the Panthers possibly might be working with this year, the cornerback room. I just think you're asking a lot, man. And it's unfair to put that kind of pressure on the coaches when the front office's job is to build the roster with talent, right? But they're doing what they have to do this year. I understand the sacrifice for offense for the defensive side this year. I get it, but they're asking a lot of Evero because of, look at this room, the cornerback room. If JC Horn, and I've got 4 pictures of JC Horn here. I don't have pictures of anybody else up. I've just got 4 pictures of JC, because if JC Horn goes down, I think you're in a world of trouble. And last year you were in a world of trouble too. But where it was a little bit different for me was the experience and like the versatility of what you had last year. Dante Jackson and CJ Henderson, I'm not by any means saying I felt good about having them behind JC Horn. That's not the case. But I didn't feel like we were going to have someone that had never done it before playing. When you talk about Dane Jackson, he's a reserve from Buffalo. I think he's a scrappy guy. I think that he can play well as a cornerback too in Evero's zone system. I think that he absolutely could do that. Evero doesn't ask for a ton of man. Troy Hill, I think, is still a very qualified nickel. DiCaprio Bootle has a lot of support inside the building. A lot of people like DiCaprio Bootle. I kind of like DiCaprio Bootle, and I kind of like Deshaun Jameson. But they're not ready to start, I don't think. Like, I wouldn't say, like, just throw them in and let them play. So it is very contingent on JC Horn staying healthy. And why that gives me so much pause is because that's the one thing that JC has not proven he's able to do. He's proven he can do everything else on an NFL field. He has not proven that he can actually stay on one. So for me, I'm going JC Horn, Troy Hill, Dane Jackson, DiCaprio Bootle, Deshaun Jameson, and Cho Smith-Wade, the rookie. And that's exactly who I'm holding. That's exactly who I'm carrying. I'm carrying 6, and those are the 6.
I mean, I would, yeah.
Not too much of a difficult decision there.
Yeah,
right?
the good thing about corner is that there's a lot of depth in free agency. Everybody wants to go after Gilmore. I mean, if they were interested, they would have signed him by now.
I don't think it's that they're not interested, though. I think that Gilmore is the one calling those shots. I think Gilmore wants to go somewhere else. I think he wants to play for a championship still or contend. And I think he wants to get paid. And so I think that he has a spot that he wants to go to right now to compete at and play meaningful football. But I also think that he is not going to go and do that for a cheap discount. And I think that somebody else is playing hardball with him. So it's got him sitting there waiting.
God, man, he that last game of the season, he lost millions.
Yep.
Man, just him just watching guys going into the end zone.
Yep.
Green Bay just with these no names just running right past him.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to go back to Dallas, but if they're the ones balking at it, right? Because they're just sitting there like, man, I can't shake that image out of our head of the last time that we were together. Like, I can't shake it,
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I had them winning the Super Bowl because I have those the Cooks and the Gilmore edition, and Jesus, man.
The one last thing I'll talk about here with this cornerback room, because we've talked a lot about special teams. I want to talk about Deshaun Jameson's ability in the return game. I think that may be something that we see out of him this year. He was dynamic at Texas. I think that we could see him involved in punt returns or even kick returns, possibly with the new rule set up. Safeties. This is the room we talked about at the beginning that both of us like the most, I think. Xavier Woods and Jordan Fuller, I'm excited about. That just seems like energy, right? Like, don't they just seem very energetic? Like, downhill, come after the ball. They're trying to take it away from you. They're trying to hit you. Like, that reminds me of like the Mike Minner safety days. You know what I mean? Like, I feel good about that, I think. Sam Franklin, Sam Franklin, how do you say anything bad about him too? Like we still got that special teams ace up our sleeve, and I think he proved that he could play the depth position of safety pretty well as well. Where it comes down to is who are you keeping after that? Jamie Robinson, Alex Cook, Nick Scott. I think Nick Scott potentially could end up making that roster. Just a veteran that is a little bit more in tune with NFL defense. Jamie Robinson is a guy that I liked, but
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's what your bet there is. James is Sam Franklin. Like I don't think you need Franklin and Nick Scott.
Yeah, for Nick Scott. Yeah,
dude, can we? I just need somebody in this world to shout out Xavier Woods. If Xavier Woods doesn't get like 6 obnoxiously bad calls, like he, I feel so bad for that guy, man. That guy just like had like it might have been 10 like clean hits on these guys. He got called for pass interference. Like I don't know what the refs had against him last year.
It's like back-to-back games too. As the Colts and the Cowboys game, it was like the same exact hit, man. One of them was called and one of them wasn't. Yep.
And one of them was like called and it got him to like the 4-yard line and they scored. And like they wouldn't have scored. It's bananas.
It was like a 3rd and 15 pass play, and he hit the guy. Clean hit. It was on. I believe it was on Michael Pittman. Yeah.
It was like a perfect hit. It was like it's a textbook hit. Man,
under the shoulder pad. Yeah.
We talked about him last year. That dude could have been a Pro Bowl. But he was up there with those like those top tier guys. And
he played well.
People just don't understand what he did for us last year, which is why they were like, Von Bell was the one going into that was going to be like the leader of the safety room. Well, it turns out that you're with
Hey, by the way, real quick, while I'm thinking about it, you said you will make sure someone please shout out. Will you please shout out Carolina Dad for sending the Carolina Panthers flag? You're welcome for reminding you.
Yo. Yeah, thanks, Carolina Dad. I was going to send a picture and put it on Twitter, but I just wanted to wait until we did the pod. He sent me a flag for my bar, and I just want to say I really appreciate it. His podcast is 2 Growls, 1 Roar. Just go check it out. It's super nice, like to send some guy you've like never actually met in person before. He works really hard. I'm really like impressed by his ethic. He's just definitely a somebody that inspires me to go out and work hard and whatever I want to do in life, whether it's podcasting, whether it's work. Insane work ethic. So appreciate it, Carolina Dad.
Good job. Good job. All right, so this is a fun one. The kickers. Normally, I don't really care about a kicker competition all that much because there's not much to care about. But I think I'm good with Eddie Pinheiro hitting the door. And I know that that's going to ruffle some feathers. I know that he's got the 3rd best percentage of field goal percentage made in NFL history because he also just barely qualified since he got over 100 this past year. But he's got like 1 year of good production, good numbers, and solid, percentages. I think that the other 3, 2.5 are more of what his true line is as an NFL kicker. Harrison Mavis Jr., I'm not even certain that this dude is the answer. Maybe he's not. Maybe we've got guys in the USFL that, are kicking 63-yarders. Maybe we just need to bring one of them in for a audition. Like, what are we doing here? We just don't need a kicker that misses 10% of his extra points, that is shrugging off 55-yarders because he knows that he can't hit them. And that is missing 2 game-winning opportunities in division rival Atlanta. I don't care what else you want to say about it, man. He had 1 good year. I appreciate your service. He wouldn't even be our kicker if it wasn't for Zane Gonzalez getting hurt. Like, he wasn't going to beat out Zane Gonzalez. Zane Gonzalez would have won it. Eddie Pinheiro may not even have a job. So I don't feel bad about the fact that he decided to stay and do the things that he did this offseason instead of coming in. I get it, man. He was helping his brother kick footballs or something like that. That's a 2-man job. So, like, you got to be able to do that. Harrison Mevis showed up and he kicked his giant leg all day and made a whole bunch of kicks and has a little bit of support. So if we can have the thicker kicker and get Eddie not so money out of here, I'll play with it, man. What do you think? Who are you taking into this kicker competition?
Dude, get Pinheiro out of here. Like, there's no, for me, anyone, in any sport ever puts up one of these on a field, you're a professional athlete, and you just go, oh well, like it doesn't mean like.
And people will point to the coaches and say, "Well, the coaches were idiots," and that's true. I'm not
Sure,
disagreeing
everybody's an
with it.
idiot. Man,
But
everybody's an
damn
idiot.
it!
People are
But
stupid.
hey,
Do
man,
your
we
job.
shouldn't
You're a
have to be.
professional.
But yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is that shouldn't be something that a coach should even be stupid about, though, because a coach should never have to say our NFL kicker doesn't have the leg to kick that 56-yarder. Like, we should know better than that. No one should ever be able to be scolded because you sent a kicker out to do the one thing that a kicker does: kick field goals. Like, I get it; it was a long kick, but you want to talk about being compared to Harrison Butker and Justin Tucker? Those guys kick long kicks. That's what they do, and they make them. They make them in the snow. They make them in the wind. They make them in the rain. They make those kicks. They also make their extra points. We have to compensate for a kicker that cannot do those things. I don't want a kicker that we have to help out. I want a kicker that will help out my offense, because an offense, I don't want my offense constantly stuttering or sputtering out at the 15-yard line so that he can kick his 32-yard gimmies, right? I want, if we can't get past the 36 and it's 2 minutes left in the game and it's a tied game, I'd like to have the opportunity to go up instead of knowing we're going to miss that kick or have to punt it and don't even give our team a chance or giving the other team extra possessions. That's where I'm just out on this whole Eddie Pinheiro thing. Don't tell me that the kicker is doing that for you. That's not what a kicker is supposed to do.
Dude, it's so I talked to you about this, but one of like things that I do for a living is I work with people, I work with vendors, I work with I hire people, I do all this kind of stuff. And the mental aspect of like a lot of these high level positions, like you're making like $1 million+ like
Mm-hmm.
to play a game. And
Mm-hmm.
everybody has to be in the same mindset because you have competition. If you're Apple,
Right.
you have to have that. You can't just go to Apple and like, I'll try. Like I'll try to make this iPhone. Like, no, you have to freaking make that iPhone
You got to
because you have
make it.
all this competition
Yeah.
to make. So
Yeah.
and it's like you're like a chain, right? So if there's like if you have one like weak link in the chain, it's like, oh, I'm holding on, and or like you're like playing tug of war. It's like, okay, I'm doing this, and we wouldn't have won that anyways. Like
Right.
I was gonna miss that kick anyway.
Right.
And those people, and that's why Morgan said he wants dogs, right? Like he wants dogs because he wants that like laser focus. So the
Mm-hmm.
Paneros of the world, the Chasons of the world, however you ever say his name, like those people that like don't give like and that's like why I'm not sure about Terrace Marshall because he's kind of like hit and miss on things. The way
Right.
Adam Thielen talks to the media, like he's kind of like middle of the road. Like I
You're
don't
just
like
not sure if they're 100% bought in.
exactly in
Yeah.
that, and it's so contagious. It's so
Yeah.
contagious. Like people that are all like, and that's why like baseball teams come out of nowhere and win championships.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the freaking Giants beat the undefeated New England Patriots because
Right.
they were all like focused and bought in, and that's what it takes, and that's what Morgan knows what it takes. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's been there, done that. So that's basically generalizing what he was saying. He wants dogs. So I want him out of here. I wanted him as soon as he threw this up. I wanted him gone.
Yeah,
I was
I'm
like,
with you.
there's no oh well. There's like live or die. There's win or lose. There's
And
not like
and look, it's still a competition, right? So like that's gonna be an easy one to know who should and shouldn't get that job, right? Because like
yeah.
you're literally gonna have a direct comparison with Harrison Mevis and Eddie Pinheiro. So you should be able to tell who has the better leg, who has the more consistent leg, who performs when he's supposed to. Like that'll work itself out.
Yeah,
Here
but
we go.
like, so there's sorry, one more fact. Like
Yeah.
there's like the I want Robert Ory on the floor at the end of the game. Yeah, he might have a 27% 3-point percentage,
Mm-hmm.
but I want
But
that guy because that guy's
but
gonna
he's
make
Big
that
Shot Bob for a reason, right? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Those intangibles matter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with you, and especially in a position like kicker, if you're not going to hit the extra points, right? Because extra points should be free points. Like that should be something that you always hit. You should be 98% or higher on extra points, especially if your calling card is a short distance guy. I don't understand how you're a 92% extra point kicker when that's what you're supposed to be great at. Like that's infuriating for me to start with.
Correct.
But yeah, you're right. I want the Big Shot Bob at the end of the game. I don't really care if he missed the 62-yarder in the first half. Is he going to hit the 57 to win the game? And
the Justin Tucker big eyes, like, are you freaking kidding me? How did I miss? That's
right. Exactly. All right, so punter, we're bringing back Johnny Hecker. That's terrific news. Best punter in the league for my books. And then the long snapper, JJ Jansen. I think that when he retires, they should just call the position the JJ Jansen. You know what I mean? Like you don't have a long snapper, you have a JJ, or Triple J. I mean, this dude is incredible. it's him and Ian Thomas are like the two things that him, Ian Thomas, and a cockroach, the three things that can outlive Matt Rule. No matter how hard they try, that's the three things that Matt Rule could not get rid of. You know what I mean? And he tried to bring in his own tight ends. He tried to bring in his own damn long snapper. Yeah, he tried to do all that stuff. And nope, can't do it, Matty. Sorry, bud. So they'll be in there. All right, so let's take a look at what we did here then. We're rounding this thing out. On offense, we got 26 players for my initial 53-man. Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, quarterback. Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, Miles Sanders, and Raheem Blackshear. I went for running back. Tight end, Tommy Tremble, Ian Thomas, Jatavian Sanders, and I did go Jordan Matthews. I got him carrying 4. Offensive line, or wide receiver, Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, ISM, and Jalen Coker. I agree with you on the Adam Thielen thing. I could see it. If he were to get moved, it would make sense to me. I see it more as a later in the season type of thing, I think.
Yeah, they carry 6. And if he's on the roster, they'll carry him.
Correct.
Obviously.
The starters on the offensive line, pretty penciled in, pretty penned in. Ika Mekwonu, Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Taylor Moton. And then for reserves, I do only have 5 reserves. I did not carry 11 here. I got Brady Christensen, Yosh Neiman, Ricky Lee, Cade Mays, and Nash Jensen. And I actually like that depth a lot better than last year, too, to be honest. I think that Yosh is a capable offensive tackle. I think that Brady Christensen's capable to play anywhere along the line. And then I think that Ricky Lee and Cade Mays, Nash Jensen, I think they all have some developmental skills that, let them sit back and learn the game of football, man. This is a good group, I think. Much improved from last year.
The only thing that, like, if everybody's not traded or before the season, this is exactly what I would have to.
And I think that Raheem Blackshear is a variable, and Jordan Matthews are the two that I think you could play with there the most, and maybe Jalen Coker, because I think that if you wanted to take Raheem and say, hey, we're only going to carry 3 running backs, if you feel good about Jonathan Brooks, then maybe you take Terrace Marshall Jr. as well, and you carry 7 wide receivers in. If you really wanted to try to do that, I don't think that's as smart. I think that I would rather have Dawood Davis, a guy that has a little return ability and stuff like that too, if you were going to carry another receiver. Jaden Sheridan is a guy that we both spoke about. I think that he could possibly surprise some people, but I think that he's a better practice squad player, and let him kind of earn his way. And then, you have injuries throughout the year. You bring him up, call him up, let him get some run, let him get some burn.
Yeah. Davis over Blackshear would be the only thing I would see.
Yep. Defense. So I got 24 defensive players and 3 special teams. Special teams will start there. We got the long snapper, JJ Jansen. We got the kicker, Harrison Mevis. I do have him winning that competition. And then I have Johnny Hecker as the punter. Defensive line, I got him carrying 5. Ashawn Robinson, Shy Tuttle, Derek Brown, Nick Thurman, Jaden Crumity. You see my little star buddy right there, pointing right at Derek Brown, the only good one that you want to point to.
I love that guy.
Me too. Edge outside linebacker room, I got a very upset star looking at that list. Jadeveon Clowney, DJ Johnson, Iku Leota, and Cam Gill are my 4 that I have going. And again, I'll preface that by saying DJ Wanham and Amari Barno are both on the PUP for me. Wanham, I would guarantee will be there. I think that Luigi Vigilan or Villain, I think that he could end up being in the edge room if they don't take Amari Barno and put him on the PUP. I think that he could end up being there, and you could take Nick Scott possibly off of the safeties and just carry 3 there. Inside linebacker, look, I've got him carrying 5. I don't know if that's too much. It might be. But I've got him taking Shaq Thompson, Josie Jewell, Trevor Wallace, Claudin Sherless, and Michael Barrett. I do have making it. Now, the reason I think that Michael Barrett makes it in this instance too is kind of what you were saying about the Nick Scott, right? Claudin Sherless and Chandler Wooten almost felt interchangeable to me to an extent, where Nick Scott and Sam Franklin for you felt a little bit that way, and you would have went Jamie Robinson. So I kind of went Michael Barrett where you would have gone Jamie Robinson, right? So I think that that's just that trade-off. That's the same premise that you had with the safeties that I have with the linebackers, is that I think Claudin Sherless is a terrific special teams guy. I think Michael Barrett is a guy that can kind of play a little bit of all that, but he also has a little bit more of that safety ability, and not like safety on its own, but that hybrid position of linebacker. It's what he played at Michigan, right? In the big star, the Viper role, I believe is what they call it at Michigan. That Viper role, I think, translates pretty decently into the NFL currently. So I think that he does have some experience in that hybrid role. Corner, JC, Dane Jackson, DiCaprio, Boodle, Troy Hill, Deshaun Jameson, Charles Smith, Wade. I think that's a relatively safe room. I don't know that there's much I would change about that.
Yeah, and I actually don't. I actually when it's laid out like that, it's all. I mean, it's just going to depend on Horn. If we get a full season on him, I don't hate that room at all.
Me
I just
neither.
automatically think what it looks like without him, and I'm like,
Yeah, because but that's it though, right, dude? Like you have to look at that and you have to say, it's going to be brutal when JC's not playing because those guys shouldn't be your starting players. Like Dane Jackson,
yeah,
DiCaprio, Boodle shouldn't be your cornerback 1 and 2 when you're going into a game. Like you just shouldn't have to feel that way about your life. JC Horn should be your 1, and then if you go into it with Dane Jackson 2, that's a whole lot different sounding than Dane and DiCaprio. You know. But yeah, there's still some reason not to feel completely dreadful with that. And then safety, Xavier Woods, Jordan Fuller, Sam Franklin, Nick Scott. I think that you could talk me into that Jamie Robinson over Nick Scott thing, though. I think that I could definitely be talked into that because I've done it with linebackers.
I think like 3 of these guys definitely. I think Barrett doesn't make it. I think Scott doesn't make it. I think we're gonna do a lot of like waiver wire afterwards. If you look at all like the what Seattle usually does with the end of their roster, they usually are very very active after.
And I think I could say that like Cam Gill here being on here for the 4th on the outside linebackers, that's a guy that I've got making the 53 that is more of a placeholder. And I think Nick Scott is a similar thing for me where it's kind of like a placeholder. Like there's going to be a player, and I think that it'll be a player in that general area.
I agree.
Outside linebacker, corner, safety, somewhere in that area that I think will be where they make their signings.
Yeah.
So Cam Gill is not necessarily a guy that I think should be on the 53.
Correct.
But there is going to be an outside linebacker on that position. So that's the 53 man that we come up with. About an hour and a half amount of time. That's pretty much exactly what when we started this conversation before we started the podcast episode, we said, man, I think we can get through this in an hour and a half if we really kind of work through it. That's not terrible.
Yeah. I mean, everything's like is everything just so interesting and just paying attention to what they did. What were the Panthers doing? What like, and that's what was really interesting to me is like, what is their game? What are they like? They're not idiots, right? They're smart people. I mean, you have 2 general managers. They're smart people. So when they don't draft an edge, when they spend a lot of money in free agency on defense, they draft the offense. It's like what's going on? Like what? Like who are the undrafted that you're bringing in? Why are the undrafted that you're bringing in? At the end of the like, are you bringing Barrett to play? Or are you bringing him to be a leader? Who are you going to trade? Who are you going to drop? So there's a lot of that's the fun part about it for me versus like who was the actual best 53 kind of thing.
Yeah, and we'll find out more. Training camp kicks off tomorrow morning. We are recording this on Tuesday night, right? Isn't today Tuesday? Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah.
Tuesday. It's my mom's birthday. Shout out, Mom! Happy birthday!
Shout out, Mom! Happy birthday, Mom!
That's just the coolest, man. You know, let me go on a little tangent. I love moms so much, man. Like moms in general, I just think it's like the coolest like idea of a person, right? Like I see my kid with his mom, and he just loves the shit out of her all the time. Like I wonder what mom's doing is what he always says and stuff, you know. And then like I think about my relationship with my mother. Man, I love her to death. Don't know what I would do without my mom. Like all the times that she's bailed me out of just shit situations, not just physically bailed me out, but also like, you know, like helped me out in times where I was lost and shit like that. And like, I don't know, whatever. I'm getting sentimental, but it's my mom's birthday. So I wanted to say happy birthday to the moms. So shout out to all the moms out there.
Yeah, my mom was my business partner. Shout out, Mom.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm saying though. Like moms are just the coolest, dude. They could do anything and everything. You know what I mean? It's pretty remarkable stuff.
This is so
our moms should start like a mom podcast or something together, you know?
Yeah, that's that my mom will never do. But if I started a podcast, she'd like kind of awkwardly come on it. I started a mom podcast.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, mom, you're supposed to talk to other moms. I'm just here. Okay. And none of the moms are talking because they're all super late. But it was just like me and her. She's like yelling at me like for an hour.
Yeah. Well, look, this is good. Let's. I've got a couple of days of camp that I'll be at. I'll be there Thursday. I'll be there Saturday. I'm an idiot, and I have tickets for the entire last week of camp. and I'm actually going to be at Edisto Island on vacation, a family vacation that I did not notice at all. So I will not be able to go to those training camps. So there may be some tickets available that I'll have to work out here because they're for the sold out ones.
Maybe we should talk because I'm just everything's in the lawyer's hands for me right now. So
Hey, come on down, man. Come on down. I'll give you the tickets. Yeah,
I was really jealous of last year. So yeah, we'll talk.
Yep. Well, look, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Until the next time, we will see. Let's see, probably about 2 weeks or something like that. Oh, look at you! You got the confetti going and everything, man. You're ready for it. All right.
I don't know. It's having another nervous breakdown. It's probably the next time we'll do the show.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, we'll have fingers crossed that Alex has a nervous breakdown soon and we get back to joining you guys here in a couple of weeks. But until then, nice. I'm Ricky Raines, your host of the Bow Body Show. Tapping back in with my buddy Alex Bryant. You guys have a good night.